So I told you last week I would give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about living in Arizona and in Phoenix. And so this week I'm talking about my 5 reasons why I hate living in Phoenix. Believe it or not, there are some reasons, and Zoe's here to help me as well. We're getting after it right now. Hey guys, it's Caitlin McKegg. Thanks for coming to my channel. I'm keeping my promise this week and talking about the 5 reasons why I hate living in Phoenix. It can't all be rainbows and butterflies, right? No matter where you live, there are things that are a nuisance and things that you wish were different to make your life easier or more comfortable or whatever it is. And I'm not gonna lie, Phoenix has some downside as well. If you wanna hear all the rainbows and butterflies, check out my video from last week where I talked about the 5 reasons why I love living in Phoenix, but today I'm telling you why I hate it. My number 1 reason of why I hate living in Phoenix is the same number 1 reason as why I love it, and it comes down to the weather. I love living here because of the weather, but I also hate living here because of the weather. It just depends on what time of year you ask me about it. I hate the weather in July and August and June, sometimes May and September too. It really depends on the year, but it gets really hot in Phoenix and it is a dry heat, but 120 is still pretty hot. So we have days that are consistently over 110 in the summer. I think this past summer we had like a record number of days, maybe 60, 70 plus days over 110 degrees. And usually it varies a little bit. You have some days that are 107 that feels great, and then you have a day that's 114 and you can really feel the difference. This summer was pretty brutal with most of them being over 110, and we didn't have any rain. So it really took a toll on us here in Phoenix. We were sick of the heat, ready for some rain, and our plants needed it too. So this was a really rough summer for us, which is one of the reasons why this is on my mind as the number 1 reason why I hate living in Phoenix. It's not just the heat that is bothersome, it's the fact that it never cools down. Once we get into the summer months and everything starts to heat up, it doesn't even cool down at night. So you end up having a day full of heat, and then your evening hours and nighttime hours are still hot. You feel like you can't escape it. Air conditioning is awesome and pools are awesome, but they only do so much. You start to get really sick of not being able to walk outside and enjoy the weather. So for as great as the weather is the rest of the year, we really pay our dues during the summer. Along the same lines of weather, we also have kind of erratic weather. So for example, last week I was wearing a sweatshirt and indoors when I shot my video because it was a high of 60 outside. Today it's a high of 88 and I am outside with short sleeves, and this is only a week difference. So sometimes our weather gets really cold and then hot again, or really hot and then back to cold again. It really depends. Different times of year that can happen too, and obviously this is because of weather patterns that go through our state from the coast of California or from Mexico, wherever these things are coming from. I'm not a weather person, but obviously there's reasons why this happens, but it does make for some erratic weather, and it makes it hard for us to know what to plan for. Last week really felt like fall, and we were all in the mood for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and now it's beginning to feel like summer again. So I don't know what next week brings. Hopefully we get some cooler weather for Thanksgiving, but you never really know in Phoenix. All right, that covers the weather. The number 2 reason why I hate living in Phoenix is because a lot of the home styles are exactly the same and the neighborhoods look exactly the same. I've always been envious of other areas of the country, especially like the cute Midwestern towns that every house is a little bit different and everyone has front grassy lawns. Here, it's a lot of desert landscape, brown and tan stucco two-story homes in most neighborhoods. Now, that's not to say that's every neighborhood, and I really enjoy seeking out the ones that are a little bit different, funky, maybe different time periods, but the more recent homes that we've built in the last 30 years here tend to look very similar. So that gets old after a while. There's not a whole lot of character in your normal subdivision here in Phoenix. Since I'm giving you the scoop on why I hate Phoenix, you could do me a huge favor by hitting that subscribe button and that like button on this video so you can keep up to date with new videos that I post about living in Phoenix. Okay, the third reason why I hate living in Phoenix is it's super spread out. You could go from one area of the valley to the other, and it could take an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it all is still considered the Phoenix area. For example, you could be in Northwest Surprise and drive all the way out to Queen Creek, which is in the southeast area of the valley, and that could literally take 2 hours depending on traffic. So even though you might have family or friends that live in the Phoenix area, it doesn't mean that you'll see them often because you might still live like 45 minutes away from one another. I mean, it's great that everyone has space and we're kind of spread out to some extent. Every city kind of has its own feel or what they're known for, but still, it kind of sucks to have to drive so far to see someone, especially with my job. I drive everywhere. Kind of going off of that, number 4 reason why I hate Phoenix is because we have pockets of good and bad. From what I've heard from people who live in other areas of the country, there's usually an area of town that is really good or a city that's really good. And I'm talking about like low crime, family friendly, that type of thing. And then you have cities or towns that are generally not as safe or, not as great schools or things like that. And here, it's really hard to navigate that. You might have a really nice pocket, but surrounding it is more of a high crime area and properties that you probably wouldn't consider buying. There's just a lot of difference in 1 square mile sometimes. So that can be really difficult when you first move here to understand where you would like to live based off of safety and what your comfort level is. And it's different for everyone, but it's not very cut and dry like it sounds like it might be in other states where you kind of know where the good areas, the bad areas, and where you'd want to live. Here it's more of pockets, as we call it, where you might like an area, but you have to be kind of cautious of what backs up to it or your surroundings there, depending on your comfort level, of course. Number 5 reason why I hate living in Phoenix is because of our snowbird season. And Zoe decided to join us this time and actually show her face. Snowbird season, if you don't know what it is when we have folks from the colder states in the country come to Arizona to enjoy the warmer weather here that we have in the wintertime. So typically the snowbirds from Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, New York, all of these places where it gets very cold in the winter will come out to their second homes in like November, December, and stay through March or April to enjoy the great weather we have here, miss all the cold ice and snow back home, and then go back home in time for the weather to be beautiful in those Midwestern states. It's awesome that people do that, and I am so happy that people appreciate our weather and our city as much as they do to do that, but it makes for a big pain in terms of traffic and busyness in restaurants, shopping, all of those things. There's a significant difference in how busy we are around the valley during those months as compared to the summer. It also makes it very seasonal for a business owner to have to track when their revenues will be higher and lower for the most part. Depending on what business you're in, it may not affect you as much, but there are businesses that notice huge differences between their winter season when the snowbirds are here as compared to the summer season. So those are my 5 reasons why I hate living in Phoenix. Don't get me wrong, I really love it here for the most part, and I had to think quite a bit on those 5 things to come up with them in the first place. So the good definitely outweighs the bad for me personally. I know it's not for everyone, but I did want to be brutally honest with the bad so that you know what you're getting into if you're considering moving here. Or maybe you already live here and you can empathize with me on these things. Let me know, are these the top 5 things that you hate about living in Phoenix? Or do you have other ones? Comment below with your perspective. I'd love to hear it. And if you have any questions about living in Phoenix or moving to Phoenix, you can always reach out to me anytime by call, text, or email. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I hope this information is helpful. And like I said, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can be notified for future videos that I post. I post videos about the real estate market, home tours here in Phoenix, and then also just real estate tips in general. So hopefully that's helpful to you. Until next week when I post another video, have a great week. I'm Caitlin McKeag with HomeSmart.